Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Supnishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Sambhade Moksha Sannyasa Yogo Nama Ashtadashodhyayah. Hari Om.
Thank you, Yogeshwar. Thank you. We are in Sanjay's position, listening to this dialogue and being just completely stunned by its profundity, its beauty, and I think we will be in that position probably throughout our lives. As we come back to it, keep coming back to it, we will keep seeing more and more and more. So thank you for taking us through this journey. I want to give you, my feedback on what I got from your presentations, but I want to first we've got about 30 minutes, so something like that, about 25 minutes. So I invite everybody now to talk about what they got from Yogeshwar's presentation. I want to give feedback to Yogeshwar about what everybody got from that. So I invite everybody to give feedback. If you do not want to speak, you can go ahead and type it in chat, whatever you prefer. We're going to start with Joe, followed by Evanik. Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Yogeshwar, I personally can't thank you enough for everything that you've done for us. I mean, I kept on thinking this whole time, this evening, that just how fortunate we are to have had you here, and just the depth of your knowledge, and having attempted to really interpret these works on my own in the past. Hearing and listening to you has been incredible, in the sense that I'll just give you one perfect example. Is like last night when we were talking about the knower, the object of knowledge, and the field, and how you were able to say, if I were to say this in the West, you were able to essentially translate it just right then on the fly. But the key is that you're communicating these incredibly deep concepts in such a digestible way that it's been life-changing. So that's the only, and so it's very hard to say thank you to that. I'm glad they were captured on recording. It's something that I hope a lot of people come back to. I know I will. And I can honestly say that in going through these ancient texts, a lot of the Tao and everything, it's been an honor to be here. So that's the and the ability to communicate such deep concepts. I wish I could repay you. I wish I could. But
Thank you, my friend. Next up is Evanik.
Yogeshwar, thank you. These meetups have been life-changing. This is the first time I've studied anything like this. And you have made it practical to, everyone's life. And I feel like the way you teach it brings it to life, and it makes it applicable to all aspects of life. And when I've been sitting here in the meetups, I'm always thinking like, okay, what area of my life does this apply to? And usually it just hits me like, oh yeah. And then for me to be able to observe without judgment is because of you and this meetup. To observe myself, to kind of break away from the attachments and to break away from the emotion of something, and really being able to look at it and see how I can take action. Like that practical nature of it has been really helpful. I remember, I don't think it was last night, might have been Thursday night. No, I think it was last night when we were talking about the truth and looking through the glass and knowing that you're seeing yourself like a reflection of yourself through the glass. And so to say that something is 100% true, no, it's not. It's through your lens. And knowing that has helped me tremendously when I'm talking to people and seeing their perspective on it, or at least trying to, so that when I'm trying to communicate something, kind of like thinking of how it's going to land over there with them, and and is what I'm truly saying getting across. And so that's helped communication. So I think, especially being a beginner in Gita, it has really helped me apply it to so many different areas of my life, and to see it in other scriptures. Like we were talking last night about seeing it in the Gospel of John, and seeing it in the New Testament, and seeing, these teachings of Gita in the Old Testament, and really being able to bring these works and spread them out throughout different spiritual practices. And like you being the example of how to live it, I think it's just been great in the way you study it. And you can tell your love for the Gita by the way you study it and the way you seek it out. And just thank you so much for being willing to, and to help us, guide us on this journey of the Gita, and really teaching us what you know and being generous with what you know. So thank you. And I would agree with you. There's no way that we could repay you, but if I could, I would.
Thank you. Thank you, Evanik. Really appreciate that. Next up, folks, please go ahead and type exclamation mark if you would like to talk about what you got from Yogeshwar's presentations. Next up is going to be Elena. Elena, go ahead.
Also joining everyone. Thank you. Really, just the gratitude to you, Yogeshwar and Shrikant, for making this available to, because of you have the most unique perspective out of everyone I know. You live it, you cite it from memory, you really do have deepest knowledge of on the topic. And so that, thank you so much. And then I have, I'd like to see a bit more, or ask a question.
No, questions later on.
Question. Okay. Then I'll keep it is a question for whenever the questions time.
Absolutely. So we will do these comments first, and then we will take, after these comments for Yogeshwar's presentations, we will talk about your entire take on Gita, everybody's entire take on Gita and what it has done for you. And then we will go on to specific questions. Next up is going to be Jyoti, followed by Brian. Jyoti, go ahead.
Yeah, Yogeshwar, I am so fortunate to have attended all these teachings from you, from Gita. I knew about Gita, but you have explained Gita to all as it is, Gita as it is, at a very deeper level. I am carrying with me lifetime of knowledge and wisdom, and now I'm just hoping that I will be able to apply it. I'm trying my best. I catch myself many times when I'm thinking otherwise, not thinking right. And then your preachings come in my mind, and I said, no, that's not how it is. So I'm going to be catching myself all the time, and I'm very grateful to you. And like Evanik said, if I could pay you, Joe said, if I could pay you, I would. But I know there is nothing on this earth that I could gather and give it to you. You are above everything. I really appreciate that you have taken the time. and devoted all this time to equip with us all the knowledge that we could never even fathom to have it. So I can only say thank you so much.
Thank you, Jyoti. Next up is Brian. Brian, go ahead.
Yogeshwar, I thank you very much for what I've gained, but I have to admit that I haven't gained as much as I need to. I have personally studied the Bhagavad Gita for over 25 years, and I've taken several courses, video courses like this from different organizations. And it wasn't until I started listening to you that I realized that I haven't actually learned all that much during all that time and all that effort. I mean, one major thing I got out of it is the other book, the Yogeshwar, which I actually haven't heard of before. Nobody ever told me about that before. And I'm still studying and not even halfway through, but I'm getting a lot from that. But with regard to your presentations, I'm afraid I have not heard of them all. I have a difficulty sort of staying awake after 10 o'clock, actually. And so a lot of the stuff I've missed. But I do have a plan. And the plan is to follow on through the recordings from the beginning and start again. Because they really do convey so much. It's impossible to put into words. And I think that's enough. I just thank you very much for what I've got so far and what I will get in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm going to make my comments and then we will go to what everybody got from Bhagavad Gita. So that's going to be the next. And then we will do questions. So firstly, the scholarship that Yogeshwar has is incredible. Not only he can read, he has read and has kind of internalized Bhagavad Gita, but he has read all the major Sanskrit commentaries. Not only has he read all the major Sanskrit commentaries, he has gone and stayed with people who specialize in them for months at a time in order to learn the entire traditions of Shankaracharya, of Ramanujacharya. And not only taken that, but has put it in his own words and communed with each of these traditions and tried to see the connections between that. So that scholarship is at a completely different level. Second, he's able to present all of these various takes on Gita and integrate them, of saying what is the connection between them, what is the advantage of this, what is the advantage of that, in what context did this commentary arise, in what context did this commentary arise, and bring it together. So that is the level of scholarship he brings. Second is he is able to create metaphors of his own and select metaphors to make things easily accessible to people. So he has all this base of knowledge, but he's able to put it in a way which can easily, with other person can easily see these complex points. Third is that because he grew up in Africa, he has an external perspective on Indian thought, which is very unusual for somebody who has that level of knowledge of Indian thought. Most people who have that are in India, and they are really profound thinkers. But because they do not have an external perspective, it is harder for them to communicate the core of Indian thought to somebody outside of India. And I think that Yogeshwar has that ability of communicating to the West. I'm also impressed that he attended many of the meetups of Tao Te Ching and Bhagavad Gita and immersed himself in it, and saw the commonalities between that, and in his presentations weaved that, talking about 10,000 things for a while, and the Holy Spirit and living water and the center and periphery. He was able to weave that in, which made it possible, made it easy to present, to see. Next is that he's a seeker. He's a person who is trying to learn. He has a humility, which is actually part of the Indian tradition. The knowledge of Brahma is incredibly deep, and there is always more. So it doesn't really matter what you know. It is you pushing relentlessly every moment towards greater knowledge. And that is the mindset that he himself has. And as a consequence, he's able to present these ideas in a very matter of fact, very humble, very direct way. In these last senses, he's kind of the best of the Indian tradition. This is the Indian tradition of saying that, you have to know, you have to learn, and seeking is everything, and you continuously seek. What you have achieved is okay, but that's not the point. The point is continuous seeking. Last point I would make is that many people get lost into rituals, and he's been able, he relentlessly focuses on the spirit of Gita and makes it come alive. So I've just, it's been just a tremendous honor and just sheer delight having him here, and I'm definitely going to miss him, and he's welcome back anytime it makes sense for him to participate. What his quest is, a very deep quest, and I have profound respect for what he's doing. And whenever it is appropriate, whenever it is good, really would appreciate any time he wants to come on again. And he's become a very good friend, and I'm going to miss him for sure. So next, let us comment on what we got from Gita. From this entire, I think Yogeshwar is going to be here for only about 7 minutes. And so if you want to talk about what you got from Gita, please go ahead and do that. Yogeshwar, do you have any comments on what you got from doing all these presentations? You're welcome to.
So what I have gotten from these presentations is, one is the perspective of the Western mind, because normally I have read books about philosophy, but then it's not that interaction you get with the books. When you have the interaction, when you have questions and you have some answers and you have a feedback, then it is more of an interactive process. You can get more from that. You can know the Western mind more from that. And then also, in a way, showing somebody what the Gita is trying to say. Sometimes it may relate to the Western mind, sometimes it's beyond that. In all ways, I have learned where each perspective is, which cannot really be put into, like, you can't really write a book out of it, but then it's some understanding that you get within yourself. And then also another perspective was that I really am grateful to Shrikant, because he allowed me to speak in these conversations. And because first of all, I was just here to be passive. Like, Maybe if I have questions, I'll ask, but then I'll listen more, because what I wanted at that time was to know the Western mind, like what they think about the Gita. That's why I had actually joined. Then I realized that as I was doing and as I was communicating about the Gita, I actually got to know more about the Western mind than I could have gotten just by listening to it. That was what got to me. And then also another thing is that giving me a platform to relay Indian ideas, like Indian tradition, how it's supposed to be viewed in today's world, was also something like I am grateful about, because you can have your thoughts about it, because many of them are thoughts that I have gotten from Indian traditions themselves. And they are things that have been written 200 years back or 1,000 years back. And to get the essence out of it, then sometimes it relates to your own life, like you feel it's useful to me. And then when it becomes useful to other people, then you realize that it is actually useful. It's not only useful to me, but it's actually useful to so many other people as well, not only myself. So that same process has now even become more prominent. Like now I can see that in all perspectives. I now also have more ground into making it more accessible for people, even in the modern world. And then also, like, even the Western mind is one, like people who are based in the US, it is one thing. But even people who are in India right now, like if we take the big cities like Mumbai or Delhi or Pune, Chennai, those people have also gotten up the Western concepts in a way. So even telling them about these concepts, like talking to them about these concepts, is something now I can learn about. Like this is something that can be done. It's not something that there is no bridge between, but there is a bridge and it can be like gotten over to. That is really important. And always, what has been in Indian tradition, Krishna had said the Gita, then Shankaracharya gave it a form. He gave it a form from the unmanifest, from the function. He gave it a form. Ramanujacharya gave it another form. It may feel different, but then it's from the function. So it has the value within itself. Now you feel that all the acharyas have given it a form in their own time. Maybe the Gita needs its own rightful form, because sometimes when the forms are picked, the previous forms are picked, the function is lost. So maybe another form needs to be put in place, that the function is manifest in its own self now. Like the unmanifest now becomes manifest at this point in time. That is more important, even in Indian tradition.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yogeshwar. And what I want to say is that this quest of making Gita and Indian thought accessible to the world, and by the way, accessible to Indians who are becoming part of the world, becoming part of the global economy, the Western thinking, is going to last our lifetime. So it is something that is going to be a big issue. It is not only a big issue now, but it's going to become even more important 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And I think, what we have done here, thanks to you, as well as, I want to thank everybody who's here and the extent to which they have engaged with Gita, asked questions, made comments. This is how new forms get developed, because the new form is simply taking the function and trying to make it accessible in the current situation. So hopefully something will grow from your work, from works of other people who will listen to this, and maybe figure out their own way of putting things together. So absolutely, it's been honor and delight, my friend. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, I know you need to leave, but again, thank you very much to you. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask people about what they got from the Gita meetups. We've just finished the Gita meetups, but it's not the end. We are going to now move to a monthly format where we will continue the discussion on Gita. So now I want to open it up for anybody who wants to share what they got from Gita meetups. Evanik.
I've gotten the desire to go to the center and learn more about myself. And yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've gotten, is to, learn more about myself and to like develop a spiritual practice, not for the sake of just doing it, but for the sake of getting to the center and trying out new practices to see what gets me there. And the Gita gave me, in a sense, quote unquote, permission or ease to do that and to try different things, to get to the center, to get to the core of who I am, and to get to know God more. And it doesn't have to be one thing. It can be multiple things, and that's okay. And this is a journey. And in a journey, some things work out and some things don't. So remembering that, and the biggest thing I got is seeking God, being the person that God wants to reveal themselves to. And I think another thing is attachment and letting go of certain things that no longer work, certain tools that worked at one point in time but no longer work. Looking at things and saying, does this bring me closer to God or closer to the center, or does it take me away? And observing it and letting it go in real time. And so yeah, those are the biggest things I got from the Gita.
Right. So sorry, David, I didn't realize that the question was about the overall thing. So I tried to postpone all the questions because I wanted to give him feedback, because I think it's very important to give feedback. So I wanted to give chance for for him to hear what people got. All right. So next up is Joe. Joe, go ahead.
It has, there have been a number of things, and I actually mentioned this initially in the Designing Your Life meetup, where, I've been practicing, working on my stoicism, practicing stoicism for a very long time. But what the Gita has given me is this deeper understanding of the self, and how there is, there's a process for that when you look internally, and it's seeing the God in yourself so that you can see the God in everyone else. And that is transformative, because I can always, and then I explained this in the past, that I can always say something that, well, that's something someone else is doing. That's them, that's not me. And that's a rational way of looking at it. It's a very rational way, but it's transformative when you start to understand yourself and understand your own personal desires, and then look at the person as completely, in a very loving way, so that whatever they're doing, you start to look at them differently, so that that's where the God in me recognizes the God in you. That is it sounds like it's the most transformative thing that if you can take away one thing from the Gita, that would be it for me. I mean, but there is so much deeper than that. When you get into the gunas, this is the process of understanding yourself. You know, this is how it breaks down. And even in discussing what Yogeshwar was talking about when a little bit earlier today with anger, you know, and Seneca has written on anger and helps you understand the root causes of anger too. But the nature of you didn't get what you wanted, and what was the other thing is that well, you don't like what you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you don't like it. But just starting to really dissect what anger is, but doing that for all the emotions, the ability to really question, it's wisdom. I mean, I really think that, and then what is really important in an individual? What is praiseworthy in an individual? These are the same kinds of questions that, you know, Socrates tried to get to as well. But the Gita really does it in a very, I would say, in a spiritually transformative way.
Mm-hmm.
And there are very deep concepts in there all throughout. The importance of devotion, the importance of meditation, like in concentration and focus, in a way that's, again, we say these words, but this is where it really has been something that has been transformative. It's brought these concepts, and it shows you, and Yogeshwar's ability to actually, again, to use metaphors and understand these concepts and convey them to us, so that we could take these lines and understand. That's, I mean, I could go on and on about this, understanding the yogas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the different paths, the yogas of devotion, whether it be karma yoga, or, and how that's the easiest way to get to the center. Understanding what the center is, so that you can act out. That it really is virtues, is at the center, and what it means to be distracted by the periphery. That these, again, that understanding, like our thoughts, the tasks we do, the feelings we have, how that is the periphery, but what the core of you is, and acting from the core is aligning your actions and who you are. And that is a very, very, very deep concept. And that's a lifelong journey that it prevents you, and we've done Outwitting the Devil, and it prevents you from drifting. Like this is essentially what it does. It helps you act in the world. And this will be one, I don't want to take up too much time, but one of the other important things is, doing things for the right reasons, and essentially the essence of, you're doing it for the because you actually love what you do. You're embracing it, and that's in chapter 17. We covered that tonight. But I think of something like what Yogeshwar is doing, and yourself. You're bringing us the Gita, right? You're bringing us knowledge because you love it. And you're able to, and that's what it really means to do something for the essence of it, right? That's what I find so refreshing, because when you're doing something because it's just the right thing to do and it's who you are, then you've reached you're acting from your center.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I could go into
No, that's fine. That's fine. Well, let's have other people chime in. and then we'll open it up for anything that anybody wants to bring up. So let's go with Jyoti, followed by Andrea. Jyoti.
Gita has been very, very informative, knowledge giving, and very everything that Joe has said. But I did a small presentation myself last week on how to design your life, and I spoke about Gita a little bit, and I will say the same thing, that I learned so much about the depth of human mind. Just last night, he made a comment. He said, discipline and attention is happiness. I would have never thought in those terms. And I thought about it in the morning when I woke up, and I said, he is so right. When you are focused in your present and you are not getting distracted, what could be more virtuous than that? I mean, you are with time, and that is what happiness is. So what Gita has done for me is it has pulled me out a little bit from darkness. Due to my circumstances, my life, and what have you, it was always there at the back of my mind, lingering, and it helped me to understand the human nature. I stopped beating myself up on that, and I said, well, that's okay. That's why Gita is there, to help you to move on with that. So that has, Gita has really, the way Yogeshwar talked about it, I think, and Gita as it is, with the examples, with the metaphors, and it just is very transformative. And at my, even I think I'm the oldest in the group here, but if I could benefit from it, and I think everybody would benefit, younger people will definitely benefit from it and move in a direction where you need to move into. So, and like I said before, gunas, oh my goodness, I think that was $1 million thing that he talked about. Every so often I think, sit down and think about it. Where am I? Where am I going? And that itself is such a valuable thing to have in yourself, that gives you sense of satisfaction, contentment, and you feel like you are now a person who's equipped to deal with your life, to move on and do the right thing. And what Gita is not only moralistic, it is also the way the things should be, the way the human being should move. That's the way it should be. It's like a prescription for the life, for your life. So I have gathered a lot of information, and his example of looking at from the window at the sky, it gives you such a small perspective of what is there. You should not look at it from that angle, from small angle. You should look at the big picture. And he is so very right. So many times we make decisions looking at the small picture, and we say, oh, I didn't take that into consideration. It's because we become so impulsive and so carried away that we forget there are other sides of it. There is a bigger side. And his whole perspective about river, waves and river, and how to go in the boat, and you have to get off on the other end. You can be left in between. Yeah, that's moksha. So I think every little thing that he says, it's something for everybody to take back and think about it and reflect on it. That's the way the life should be. So if I could get that, I think, that is profound. That's really big. Thank you. You are muted.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Jyoti. And, fortunately we have YouTube. and we have all of those. So I encourage everybody to rewatch, because my friend Rupali was saying, you know, she had attended a meetup, and just like 4 or 5 days later, she watched the same video, and she said, wow, I got all of these new things from the same thing that I had attended. So, so I think the fact that we have all of this great work on YouTube is a great asset, and that's going to help us, all of us, going forward, and hopefully many more people will discover it as we go on. Next up is going to be Andrea.
Thank you. I'd like to say a couple of things here. You know, my first contact with Gita was when I was taking some yoga course, you know, but more in the sense of very superficial. And actually, I couldn't really make any connections, because when you're taking these yoga certificate courses to teach yoga here in the Western world, is very much the physical, all right, the fitness. So the Gita was just part of the curriculum, but I couldn't really get into the depth of it. And then through other experience as well. So when I was checking the meetup, I got it when it was already in chapter 17 or 16. So it was just because I was going through some battles in my life, and I said, okay, I will try. So for me, Gita now is becoming more like a philosophy for life, not a religious sense. So although might be for some people have a religious tone, for me it can be more spiritual or more philosophical. And also another way of helping the self, and this goes more with Joseph was talking about the psychology. So instead of you know, having reach out to a therapist, I reach out to Gita. You know what I mean? So I see more like as, you know, a psychology, and in a way goes very much into, well, I start questioning now the psychology that we have been practicing, you know, in therapies, for example. It's all about the self. So all these are trying to understand the self, and how can we understand the self from a Gita's, you know, guidelines, I would say. So it's I think that is something that is a process, and that's a journey, all right? Because we come to Gita in different times of our lives, and we get it out of it different things. So right now I'm in a different journey, and I try to get whatever I can for me to go through this journey. Thank you.